For centuries, a single metal has had the power to collapse empires, rewrite trade routes, and quietly destroy entire economies. Wars were fought over it. Kings built their thrones on it. Civilizations rose and fell because of it. Most people think that era is long gone. But today, that metal just returned in the most unexpected place imaginable, inside a battery. And what Samsung just revealed may be the most disruptive moment in global supply chains in decades. To understand why this matters, we need to go back to a time when silver didn't sit inside smartphones or electric cars. It sat inside vaults, coins, and crowns. In the 1500s, silver was the beating heart of the global economy. When Spanish explorers discovered massive silver deposits in the mountains of South America, they believed they had found unlimited wealth. Silver poured into Europe in unimaginable quantities. Money became abundant. Trade exploded. Empires felt unstoppable. But something went terribly wrong. As silver flooded the system, its value quietly collapsed. Prices skyrocketed. Inflation spread across continents. Ordinary people couldn't afford bread. Wages lagged behind prices. Entire economies destabilized. Historians later called this period the price revolution, the first global inflation crisis in human history. Silver, the very thing that created wealth, also destroyed it. That lesson was supposed to be buried in history books. But history has a way of returning when we least expect it. Fast forward to the modern world. Civilization now runs on electricity. Phones, cars, data centers, artificial intelligence. Everything depends on energy storage. Batteries are no longer a convenience. They are infrastructure. And for years, the global battery industry has rested on a fragile and dangerous foundation. Lithium mines concentrated in a handful of countries. Cobalt sourced from politically unstable regions. Nickel refining dominated by geopolitical rivals. Every electric vehicle, every power grid, every phone depends on supply chains that stretch across borders filled with tension and risk. Governments know this. Corporations know this. Investors know this. And that's where Samsung enters the story. Samsung is not just a consumer electronics company. It is one of the most powerful industrial empires on Earth. While others chased flashy headlines, Samsung's battery division worked quietly behind closed doors. Engineers tested materials. Chemists pushed limits. Executives waited. Then came the announcement. Samsung revealed a new solid-state battery technology that uses silver as a core component. Not lithium-heavy liquid batteries, not fire-prone designs, but a compact, stable, silver-based architecture with higher energy density, faster charging, and dramatically longer lifespan. At first glance, it sounded like just another tech upgrade. It wasn't, because this battery didn't just improve performance. It threatened to change the entire map of global supply. Silver is not lithium. Silver is not cobalt. Silver is everywhere, mined across dozens of countries, traded in deep global markets, embedded in financial systems for thousands of years. But silver also carries a dangerous secret. Most silver isn't mined directly. It's a byproduct. It comes from copper mines, lead mines, zinc operations. That means production cannot simply ramp up when demand surges. Supply is slow, rigid, and unresponsive. When demand spikes, prices don't rise gently. They explode. And suddenly, analysts realized something terrifying. If even a fraction of electric vehicles shift to silver-based batteries, global silver demand would surge overnight. Jewelry demand would be squeezed out. Electronics manufacturers would face higher costs. Solar panel production would be affected. Investment markets would scramble. Silver would stop behaving like a passive commodity and start behaving like oil. That's when the whispers began. Not on social media, not in headlines, but in boardrooms, commodity desks, and government briefings. People began to understand that this wasn't just a battery breakthrough. It was a structural shock. Some started calling it the silver bomb, not because it explodes physically, but because once it goes off, you can't undo the damage. History tells us what happens next. In the 1970s, oil transformed from a resource into a weapon. Prices quadrupled, inflation soared, economies stalled. Entire nations reshaped their foreign policy overnight. In 2020, semiconductor shortages shut down car factories and exposed how fragile modern supply chains truly were. Now imagine silver joining that list. Unlike oil, silver is deeply embedded in financial psychology. It has been money. It has been safety. It has been a hedge against collapse. When silver demand shifts from investment to survival, markets behave irrationally. People hoard. Governments intervene. Prices overshoot reality. And the consequences don't unfold slowly. They arrive suddenly. Battery manufacturers that rely heavily on lithium would face a brutal decision. Rebuild factories at enormous cost or risk becoming obsolete. Contracts signed years in advance would become liabilities. Stock prices would reprice before production lines even change. And here's the cruelest part. By the time the public realizes what's happening, the shift will already be complete. This is how every supply shock unfolds. The smart money moves first. The headlines come later. The damage is understood years after that. Samsung hasn't mass-produced these batteries yet. That's the calm before the storm. Because markets don't wait for certainty. They move on probability. And the probability that silver becomes strategically critical again has just skyrocketed. 500 years ago, silver reshaped the world by being too abundant. Today, it may reshape the world by becoming too essential. The parallels are chilling. Back then, silver connected continents through trade. Today, it connects devices through energy. Back then, it destabilized currencies. Today, it threatens supply chains. Back then, empires underestimated its power. Today, corporations may be doing the same. The human behavior hasn't changed. Fear still drives markets. Greed still accelerates bubbles. And ambition still blinds decision-makers to unintended consequences. Samsung's announcement is not just about technology. It's about leverage. Whoever controls the next generation of batteries controls transportation, energy storage, and the pace of the green transition. And if silver becomes the backbone of that system, then the global balance of power subtly shifts. Mining nations gain influence. Manufacturing giants gain control. Countries without access fall behind. This is how economic history turns, quietly at first, then all at once. The world doesn't collapse in a single moment. It bends. It strains. It adjusts. And then one day, people look back and ask how everything changed so fast. The silver floods of the 1500s created inflation that haunted Europe for generations. The oil shocks of the 1970s reshaped global politics. The semiconductor shortages of the 2020s exposed fragile interdependence. The silver battery moment may be next in that lineage. And here's the final, uncomfortable truth. By the time governments start talking about it, it will already be too late to control. By the time consumers notice prices shifting, the contracts will already be signed. By the time headlines catch up, the winners and losers will already be decided. History doesn't announce itself with sirens. It whispers first. Samsung didn't just launch a battery. They reopened a chapter of economic history that never truly closed. The real question isn't whether this technology will work. The real question is whether the world is ready for what happens if it does. Because if silver becomes the backbone of energy storage, the next global shock won't come from banks or wars or markets crashing overnight. It will come from a quiet metal that once ruled the world. And this time, almost no one sees it coming.